Gary A. Tagapulot, and I'm fourth reporter for this afternoon. And my topic that I will discuss to all of you on how to use a decimal grids to find its quotient. Let's start with our discussion. Now, you have to watch example videos that I will show on how to use decimal grids to find its quotient. So here's the example.
Okay, so here's an example of how to model the division of decimals. My first number here is 1 2/10, and it says to divide by 4. The 1 2/10 tells me how many I need to shade in, which is 1 whole and then 2/10. And then this second number tells me how many groups I'm going to have. And so I'll use each one of these squares as its own group. And what I'm really going to do is I'm going to take one and put it in a group. Take the second one and put it in the other group. Take the third, put it in a group. Take the fourth, put it in a group. And continue to do that until I've run out of tenths. And also, if you notice, I have 10 here plus 2 more, so I have 12 tenths. So I can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I've run out of my tenths. And so my answer now is how many are in one group. And I have 3/10 in a group. And that's it. So 1 2/10 divided by 4 is 3/10.
Welcome to Math with Mr. J. In this video, I'm going to be covering decimal models. So we're going to be taking a look at a model and then writing out the decimal that that model represents. And in this specific video, we're going to be taking a look at hundredths. So we have 4 examples that we're going to go through together in order to get this down. So let's jump into number 1 here, where we have 1 whole square. Now, is that whole square filled in? No. So we have something less than a whole. So we need a decimal to represent that. So that square is cut into 100 equal pieces. Each of those little pieces is worth 1/100th. But we have more than 1 filled in. So let's see how many hundredths are filled in, and that's the decimal that we will write out. So each one of the columns going up and down has 10. So we don't need to count each individual little square or piece. So this would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So now we'll count the individual pieces or hundredths in this column because we don't have a full column of 10 filled in. So this would be 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, and 78. So we have 78 hundredths. So in order to write that out as a decimal, we'll start with a 0 because we don't have a whole number, then our decimal, and then we have 78 hundredths. Now we can also write that decimal as a fraction by writing 78 hundredths, 78 out of 100. Now that decimal and fraction are equivalent. They hold the same value and they both have the same name, 78 hundredths. One is just a decimal and one is a fraction. 2 different ways to represent that model. So let's move on to number 2 here, where we have, again, hundredths, and we need to see how many hundredths are filled in. So we do not have any full columns filled up, so we need to count these individually. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hundredths. So the most common mistake with number 2 is going 0 holes here, decimal, and then putting the 9 in the tenths place. Now 9/10 is different than 9 hundredths. 9/10 is actually equivalent to 90 hundredths. So we don't have 90 hundredths filled in there. So most common mistake is putting the 9 in the tenths place. What we need to do is use a placeholder 0 to bump the 9 over to the hundredths place, and now we have 9 hundredths. Or we can write it as a fraction, 9 hundredths, 9 out of 100. So on to number 3, and with numbers 3 and 4, we actually have whole numbers and then a decimal or fraction. So for example, number 3, our first square here, is completely filled in. So that represents 1 whole. And then we have our decimal portion over here. So we have 1/100th, 2/100ths, 3/100ths, 4/100ths, 5/100ths. So 1 whole and 5/100ths. So we would represent that 1 and 5/100ths. Now remember, don't put a decimal and then a 5. That's 5/10ths. So that would be a common mistake, just like number 2. So we need a placeholder 0 to bump that 5 over to the hundredths. And now that's 1 and 5/100ths. Or with a fraction, 1 and 5/100ths. On to the last one here, number 4, where we have 1 whole, 2 wholes, and then 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 2 and 87/100ths. So 2 wholes and 87/100ths. Or with a fraction, 2 and 87/100ths. So there you have it. There's how you take a look at a decimal model and then write out the decimal or fraction that that model represents. I hope that helped. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, peace.
So everyone, let's continue the topic of decimals. So when we say decimal, it is division of decimals, divide decimal or mix decimals up to 2 decimal places. So we have the drill and the review time of the questions. So let's start how to answer all of these problems. Now if we talk about divide, so we use divide to generally, as you can see on our video. So let's start. Now, as you can see, all of these decimal numbers or mixed decimal numbers have 2 decimal places. There are 2 decimal places, which is divide and quotient. So now you all understand on what is the meaning of decimals or mixed decimals. So who wants to try to answer? When we say 112 divided by 8 is equal to 14. Now, 112 divided by 8 is 14. So, let's move on to this number 2. 539 minus 11. So we have 539 minus 14 is equal to 49. Now these decimal places are some division of decimals. When this is decimals places to another decimal, or to decimal to decimals, fractions to fractions. So when we say 204 minus 6 is 34. 779 minus divided by or minus or divided by 19 is 41. Minus 17 is equal to 19. Now, if you watch the video on how to solve it, there is square or division of decimals to shape in the video. So, say 4 minus 7.2 is equal to 20. 3.5 divided by 7.7. Now, all of these answers are correct if this decimal or mixed decimals is divided into two pieces. Now, the drill and the review of the quotient or find the quotient. If you watch the video on how to shade decimal grids. Now you will learn how to answer this.